This? Okay.
You feeling like it is?
Yeah, but maybe because
We are going to begin the memorial service for Mrs. Beverly Ruth Fleishman. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you kindly to place it in the silent mode or turn it completely off at this time. And services will be conducted by Rabbi Barry Schechter.
Mizmor David, Adonai, mi Yaakov yolecha, mi yishkon behar kodshecha, holech tamim ufoel tzedek, v'dover emet bilvavo. Lo regah lo lishono, lo asal reihura, v'cherepa lo nasa krovo, nivze benov nimas, v'et yirei Adonai yechabed, nishpa le'ara, v'lo yamir, Kaspo lo natan beneshech, v'shochad anaki lo lakach. Oseyele lo yimot li'olam. God, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain, those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who give their word and come what may do not retract, who do not exploit others, those who live in this way shall never be shaken. Now, dear friends, we're here for a sad and difficult occasion to say goodbye, which is one of the most difficult things we can ever do, but also to pay tribute, to honor the memory, and to celebrate the life of Beverly Ruth Fleishman, Bev, the daughter of William and Rebecca, who's gone to eternal rest at the age of 91, and leaves behind a family and friends who really loved her very, very dearly, and whom she loved very dearly. First, I should mention her late husband, your father, Meyer, who passed away, I think it was seven or 8 years ago, isn't that right? 7 years ago. But there we have the children, Howard, Bruce, and his Tammy. I'm probably looking at the wrong people all the time, don't worry. Alan and his Lynn, and the grandchildren, Adam and his Ursula, Benjamin and his Jacqueline, Mark and his Melissa, Amy and her Greg, Lauren and her Christopher. Where's Lauren? I've got to keep my eye out this way. Nicholas, Rachel, Kimberly, Michelle, and Eric. And then we have the great-grandchildren. Please stand when I mention your names. That was a joke. Never mind. Evan, Madison, Lillian, Sophia, Cecilia, Henry, Archer, Millie, and Elliot. Also, of course, I should mention her late brother, Barry, who is married to Pat, who is alive. And there are a number of members of the canine tribe, dogs, and I'm going to read a list of them. It goes back many, many, many generations. Cookie, Nebbish, Buttons, Monet, Charlie, and sweet boy Gizmo. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. We're going to begin by hearing from the family. So, Tammy, if you'd like to come up, please, dear, to speak about Bev.
So I'm calling my little spiel, what? So mom wanted to be a mom. And she just wanted to love and be loved. And I loved her and she loved me. Sometimes that love came across as kind of tough love. Like when I told her I was going to open a bookstore. She said, "What? You have no business opening a bookstore. You don't know what you're doing. You're crazy. You have no business running a business." And she said that over an hour in many different ways. It turned out she was right. I had no business running a business. And then there was a time Lauren and Bruce and I were in Arizona visiting her, and we decided she was going to teach us how to play mahjong. But Grandma said, "Well, there's one problem. I only have one card, and it's illegal to copy the mahjong card." So we discussed it and we decided to commit the crime. So we sent the person with the most to lose in life to get the card copied. We sent Bruce. But he did it. He came back. So she's teaching us Maj. Well, Bruce is Majing all over the place. And Lauren and I are like, "What? We don't get it." And he's like, "Oh, Maj, Maj." So Grandma was like, "You've got to study the card." She's telling me and Lauren, "You've got to study the card." Okay, well, I don't think Bruce studied the card. I'm not home from copying it, but so it was not pretty. Lauren and I did not do well. The next day, Dad had to go to the hospital. I can't remember. I think he was choking or something with strictures. So I'm thinking, perfect opportunity. I'll study the card. So I take the card, the illegal card, and I'm in the emergency room studying it. Just by myself, not bothering anybody. And Mom looks at me and she goes, "You think you can learn how to play mahjong by studying the card?" I said, "What?" And then when she was 89, Bruce and I were out visiting her, and we always got up before she did. And I always listened to podcasts in the morning. And I was listening to a podcast about intermittent fasting. And she hated it that Bruce and I were always weight conscious, and she absolutely hated it. So she comes out and she goes, "What are you listening to?" I thought about lying, but I said, "It's about intermittent fasting." She said, "What?" I said, "Intermittent fasting." She said, "What?" I said, "Well, it's where you just limit your eating times to like maybe 6 to 8 hours a day so that, she said, "So you can lose weight." And I said, "Well, then I did lie." I said, "Well, it's not just about weight. It's about being healthy too." She goes, "Look at me. I'm 89 and I made it." I said, "And I don't do that." And I said, "Well, you have stage 4 kidney disease." She goes, "Eh." I said, "You have a pacemaker." She goes, "Eh." "Do you have high blood pressure?" "Eh." What else did I say? Anything I brought up, she's like, "Eh." Then the last thing is, like about a month ago, we called her and I said, "Mom, I think I found the reason why I'm itching all over." And she said, "What?" And I said, "I have eczema." She said, "What?" I said, "Eczema." She said, "What?" I said, "Eczema." And she goes, "Oh, eczema." She goes, "Oh, honey, that runs in the family." I said, "I love you too, Mom."
Thank you for that delightful account about Bev, I'd spoken to a number of you. We'll hear from you later, but I hadn't heard any of these. These were just wonderful. And now, Lauren.
My notes on the phone, so that's why I have it. All right. So my son Elliot, who you guys know, wanted me to get up and talk. So this is why I'm doing that. When I said I wasn't going to talk at the funeral, he was like, "It's your grandma's funeral." And I was like, all right, so I'm doing it. And he wanted me to tell everybody how nice Bubby was and how she was so happy in the last days of her life. Okay. So I just have some things that, oh God, I'm not going to get through this all. I'm just going to say the things that I'll never forget. Grandma and Grandpa singing Frank Sinatra in the car. Oh my God, I have so many things. All right. Flea markets in Arizona, their condo in Chicago, especially the closet with the toys for us. The Fleishman family whistle, eating carryout for every meal, locks, going to see 2 movies, but only paying for 1, McDonald's, and all the stories that we all have with McDonald's, Pila, wooden cactus glasses holders with googly eyes, calling and singing happy birthday on every single birthday, TV shows and how loud they were. And the rest I just can't do without crying. So that's it.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lauren. And now, Kimmy.
Okay. We're gathered here. By the way, I wrote this with like a little bit of help from ChatGPT, so it's gonna be like we're gathered here to celebrate the extraordinary life of a woman whose presence was a force of nature itself, Grandma Bev. I'd like to share what I believe were the reasons why she was here with us. The reasons my grandma was here. 1, to be the North Star of honesty. She modeled a candid world where sugarcoating was unnecessary and honesty rules, even when it wasn't diplomatic. She was a beacon of stark honesty in a world all too comfortable with ambiguity. Her signature bluntness, delivered with the sharpness of truth and a twinkle in her eye, taught us that transparency is a form of love, sometimes challenging, a lot of times challenging, but always rewarding. She was here to anchor our family with fierce loyalty. She was a living lesson in loyalty, proving that it's not just about standing by your family, but standing up for them when it counts. She was the champion to the art of dining out. Considering she lived to 91, it's clear that the secret to longevity is starting the day at Butters or Village Tavern and ending it at Nick's or Don and Charlie's. She was a connoisseur of life's simple pleasures, and a meal out with family was her absolute favorite. She was here to prove that fashion has no age limit. I'm certain that she chose to pass on the day that she had her hair done on purpose. She showed us that you're never too old to rock a bold print or extravagant necklace or ring. She wore her statement pieces like a badge of honor, and it was a reflection of a life well-lived and well-traveled. She was here to host the ultimate, and some might say unsolicited, Law and Order SVU marathons. I will think of her whenever I hear the dun-dun for SVU every single time. She'd have the volume on level 75 out of 80 and her entire Scottsdale house would echo. She came here to be and was here to be unflinchingly candid. Whether it was politics or the proper way to play mahjong, she never shied away from sharing her mind, teaching us to approach life with the same level of candor. Whether it was arguing over what time to leave for dinner or insisting that her way of playing Maj was the only way, her stubbornness was as much a lesson in persistence as it was a source of endless family jokes. She came to remind us that age is just a number, especially when it comes to play. from mahjong to smartphone apps like playing Hanging with Friends. She never let me win, ever. She was the undefeated champion. She was always ready with a sly grin and a lucky strategy. She taught us that playfulness doesn't have an expiration date, and you never have to let your opponent win. She came to be the keeper of family lore. Her stories, often embellished for dramatic effect, kept history alive, turning past family escapades into epic tales that left us laughing and learning. I'll never forget our kitchen chats when I'd come to visit where it felt like time stopped and the outside world didn't exist. She came to chart a course for adventure on the high seas. Her love for travel wasn't just about destinations, it was about bringing us together on family cruises, where every shore excursion and dinner became a cherished memory, weaving us into the great tapestry of her well-traveled life. In the end, the true essence of Grandma Bev's legacy can be found in the unbreakable threads of loyalty and love that she wove into the fabric of our family. Her unwavering commitment to us was the kind of profound devotion that you can feel in your bones. She had an extraordinary gift and ability to make us feel like the most important person in the world. As we all sail forward, as we all will, Grandma's spirit accompanies us, guiding us just as the scars guided us on our cruise ships. We'll carry her in our hearts, the laughter that echoes are her own, and the strength of the bonds that she fortified among us. Grandma's love was her legacy. It's ours to cherish, emulate, and pass on, a grand finale that truly never ends but resonates through generations if we let it. So let's let it. May her memory be a blessing.
Thank you, Kimmy. I heard some interesting things there that you know, and I don't. Someone mentioned something that I'd not heard when I spoke to the three boys, the three sons, the Fleishman whistle. This, maybe you'll explain to me later. Is it okay for polite company? Oh, okay. And something about McDonald's. There's some stuff about McDonald's. Yeah. Anyway, for me, as a rabbi who's officiating and as a stranger, you know, rabbi is in a very peculiar position. I am here very often. I'm a stranger, but I've spoken to the three of you, to Howard and to Bruce and to Alan. And you told me about how she was born in Detroit and actually went to Ohio State for a semester and met at a New Year's, the two of them met, Meyer and Bev met at a New Year's Eve party. And he said, I'm going to marry her. She was slightly underage, actually, at the time. He hadn't realized that. When he proposed, she said, I'm only 18. He said, well, I got the ring already. I expected more laughter than that. That's really magnificent. And then they came to Chicago, or rather to Deerfield in the late 1950s. Howard and Bruce, you had your bar mitzvahs at Beth Orr in Deerfield, but Beth Orr was going through, the synagogue was going through some difficulties. And you, as you told me right this morning, Alan, you said, Alan's parents asked him a question to which I don't think there's more than one answer. They said, would you like to go to Hebrew school? Come on. I'm not saying, Alan, I'm not saying that your response was one that's universal, that every person on it, but I've met a lot of people, and I don't think you're in very large company, let me say that. It's, as I said to you this morning, it's almost a rhetorical question. You know, you wouldn't like to go to Hebrew school, would you? I mean, that's, and so you didn't, which they regretted later, as you told me. You also told me about mahjong, which was you had to educate me about this, and I still don't understand. I know that the number of Jewish ladies who don't play mahjong is infinitesimally small. I know that, but to actually hear about someone who is something of a mahjong champion, who actually bought an automatic mahjong table so that she could continue with this elevated activity, that she could play with people 20 years younger than her and wipe them out, and was not embarrassed or ashamed to do so. And it was at a convention in Las Vegas where she didn't win, but she got a place. I think, what was she, second or third or something like that? She was actually mentioned in it. There was a TV, and part of the TV news. So you have a champion, or you had a champion in the family, in many other ways as well, of course. She had friends, many friends from the synagogue, also in Arizona. Also, she met friends through mahjong. Apparently, even the people that she beat became her friends. They would, when you were growing up, when the three of you were growing up, sometimes they would go out together, or go away and leave you. You'd have a babysitter. I know they loved, well, she loved, I guess he did too, playing craps, going to Las Vegas, playing craps, and going to the shows there. In those days, the shows, we were hearing Frank Sinatra, whom she adored, and that was the kind of person you would see in the shows in those days in Las Vegas. I know you travel to other places. You travel to Detroit, right, to see her parents. When I asked you about her disposition, her temperament, you told me she was the calm one. She was the peacemaker. Alan, may I tell the story about your exploits on your motorbike? And you fascinated a certain policeman by the way you would drive, the speed, I think, at which you were going. And he followed you to the house. And then Bev came out yelling at you. And the policeman said, well, you've got enough trouble. And he left. And your mum said to you afterwards, well, did it work? And it did. And when I asked about that, when I forget who I was speaking to, when I asked about that, I said, well, she was a very good actress. And you told me she did act. They both acted, right, in plays that were put on in the temple. So she acted both in plays, and she also acted in the presence of a very important audience, namely the police. The only difference was this: the audience in the plays knew this was acting, but the policeman didn't know that. He's waiting outside. I've spoken to him. You told me growing up that you would go for Pesach, for Passover, the Seder, to her Aunt Norma and her Uncle Mike. You remember that? And you said that it was just a wonderful experience, because there were many, we had about 20 people, all kinds of relatives, family, and the food apparently was out of this world. It was absolutely delicious. Every few years, as you mentioned, there was a cruise. You would go on cruises, the family, Alaska, the Caribbean, Hawaii, the Mexican coast. She loved to travel. Meyer, not so much. I'm English, I use understatement. But she took him along, and he went, and he enjoyed it. And because she read so widely, she loved to read. She was a voracious reader, and so many of the places that they would go to, she had read about, and she would know. It wasn't like a tourist who's a total stranger coming to a place they know nothing about. And they went to Japan, and all places in Europe. They went to England. That makes me very happy. Italy, France, Turkey. She would love to go to plays, right, in downtown Chicago, and also when she was in Arizona. She loved, goes without saying, Broadway shows. Frank Sinatra. Now, the car radio was always on, right, with Sinatra and similar similar singers. Was the car radio on as loud as the TV was on? Was it? Yes. Was she hard of hearing, or she just wanted to get the full impact? She always, as you said, she was a fashionista. Everything was always just wonderful. She'd have her nails, her hair. It's difficult for me to speak about hair. For me, it's just a memory, but I can praise it in other people. She knew the birthdays, I think, of all the great grandchildren. Isn't that right? She would send cards and remember all these things. She had a wonderful laugh. She had a wonderful laugh, and she loved to laugh. She had this infectious laugh. She also, as we heard, especially from you, Tammy, she could come on strong. I mean, she didn't hold back. But that happens. I feel for you. My own mother was the same way. Sometimes a little overwhelming, but you recovered. Bruce, where's Bruce? Bruce. Yes, it's Bruce. Yes, you told me, Bruce, that you would, even in the last 6 months of her life, when you would visit, you could get her to laugh. You could get her to laugh hysterically, and it was just wonderful. Laughter. Some people, we forget this because it seems so obvious, but we really don't know why this happens. Laughter is infectious. If I were to start laughing uncontrollably now for some insane reason, if I did it for long enough, you'd all start laughing. You know this, and we don't quite know why this happens. The same for yawning. If I were boring you to tears and one of you started yawning, we'd have a concert of yawns. But laughter, there's something wonderful about laughter, that one person can start for any reason or no reason, and then others will follow, and everyone feels good. It happened to me in my synagogue once. For some reason, I exploded with laughter during a service. I couldn't sing a song. I just laughed and laughed and laughed, and everyone was laughing. They told me afterwards it was the best service ever. And there's something about her, the way you describe her, which is like that. Because we need to have this kind of thing, especially in the world that we live in now. We're in a frightening world now, regardless of one's politics. The world is not in good shape, and we all know it. And you can really get pulled down. You can get depressed and frightened. And we need to be in the presence of people who make us feel good, who make us feel better. And you have someone like this, who I think, from everything you said, was a character, a wonderful character, with some wonderful turns of phrase, like, as you said, what? And very, very expressive, with a half a syllable, not with less than a word. You can say a great deal. So we have a character, someone here, and I say this as the highest praise, because it's someone who actually makes us feel good. And we need that. There was a rabbi in ancient times, his name was Shammai, and he had a saying. It's very odd, because we know from many accounts that he had a very bad temper. He had a terrible temper. And yet he said this. He said, I'll say it in Hebrew first, Hevei makabel et kol adam besever panim yafot. Receive everyone with a cheerful face. That's what he said. So in other words, he could talk the talk, but he couldn't walk the walk. But he was absolutely right. And this ability to lift people's spirits just by being yourself, by seeing what is funny or feeling what is funny and laughing and making other people laugh, or enjoying a laugh like you did with her. You both felt better afterwards. And if there was anyone else in the room, I don't know if they felt better afterwards. And this is, at the moment we're living in now, this is so important. This is so utterly important. So when you talked before, I forget, because I think maybe it was you, you talked about her being a lesson for us, you know, trying to emulate her, trying to go on taking from her life the things that were good and incorporating them into our own lives, if that's possible. That's very, very important. She's gone physically. But you know, when a good person comes into the world, the good they bring into the world does not have to go away with them. When we make our prayers after we eat a meal, the Birkat Hamazon, we mention, if our parents are present, we mention our parents. So in this case, we would say, Imi. Imi is the Hebrew from my mother. You two may remember this. You don't. Right? Imi, my mother. But we don't just say Imi. We say Imi Morati, my mother, my teacher. My mother, my teacher. I'm not talking about the kinds of things you were saying, you know, about not taking care of one's health or one's weight. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the general disposition. I said, he'll start, we'll all do it now. The way we're going, even I'll be yawning in a minute. We had a fellow in England who once said, he said, I can't, he spoke wonderfully. He's a wonderful, he was the head of the Union of Teachers. He was a marvelous speaker. And he said, he didn't even have notes, because he said, if I have notes, he said, if there's one thing worse than the audience falling asleep, it's the speaker falling asleep. So anyway, where was I? Yes. To take from her life the wonderful things that were there. And if we're faced with a very difficult situation, which in the nature of things we are all bound to, that's life, up and down, up and down. And thinking of her and picturing her smiling, laughing, hearing her laughing, it might help sometimes, not always, for us to get through this moment. Doesn't always happen, but it does sometimes, and I can say that from personal experience. So take whatever you can from this wonderful woman that you were so fortunate to have for so long. We all wish it could have been longer, but you had her for a very long time, and she was a bracha. She was a blessing to all of you, not just to the children, but to the grandchildren, to those who married into the family, who became part of the family. You talked of love. You talked of love. You married into the family, but you gave love. You got love. This is rare and wonderful. Keep it going. Keep it going. That's how you'll honor her. Keep it going. Of her, I say, Tahei nishmata tzerura b'tzror hachayim. That means the following: may her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. That is what I say of her. And to her, I say, Bev, lechi b'shalom. You know what shalom is? Peace. Go in peace. Habalech in Gan Eden. May your repose be in paradise. You will never be forgotten. You will always be remembered in love by those who knew you and loved you, and those whom you knew and you loved. Amen. And now, would you read with me? You have these folders? You have a folder? Could you pass them back? I think you may have some extras there. Some people in the row behind you don't have. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. So, if you open them up on the left side, the 23rd Psalm, would you read with me, please? The Lord is my shepherd, everyone. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And now, could I ask you please to stand? If it's difficult to stand, stay seated. And those of you wearing the ribbons, I think that's just the three of you. If you will come out and stand near me, might come to you, but we are being filmed and I want the people to be able to see this. So these ribbons are a sign, tearing the ribbons is a sign of mourning. Traditionally, people would actually tear their clothing, but we do the ribbon. So I'm going to tear your ribbon and I'll say a blessing, a bracha with you when we are done. Just a minute. Here we go. So come closer to me, please. So I'll use the microphone so that people can hear us. So this bracha, this blessing begins the way everyone does, Baruch Atah, etc. And then at the end, there are two words which I will tell you. But say with me, Baruch
Atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech
haolam
Dayan
Dayan
ha'emet,
ha'emet.
which means blessed be the true judge. That's what we say when we suffer a loss, as you have. Would you go back to your seats, please, but remain standing. Hail Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanefei Ashkina, B'malot Kedoshim U'Torim, Kizohar Harak Yamas Hirim, Et Nishmat Beverly Bat Warren Ufern Shalachad Olama Bavur She'anachnu Nodreim Nitztaka Beyad Hazkarat Nishmata Began Eden Tehei Menuchata Lachein Balarachamim Yastireha Beseiter Knafav Leolamim Yitzeror Yitzrodachim Et Nishmata Adonai Unachalata V'taduach b'shalom al mishkava v'nomar amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament, unto the soul of Beverly Ruth Fleishman, Bev, who has ended eternity and in whose memory we offer charity. May her repose be in paradise. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. And we will conclude the service now with the Mourner's Kaddish, which is on the back page of this folder. At the top, it's in Hebrew letters, and underneath, it's in English transcription. If you can, please join. If not, you can respond. One of the responses is very simple. When we say, or when I say, Va'imru, you say, Amen. Va'imru, Amen. Va'imru, Amen. So let us begin. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei, v'yamlich b'malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yamechon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala u'vizman kariv, va'imru, everyone, Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudshah rihu le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru everyone amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru everyone amen. You may be seated.
Okay, you take a check, right? I can get it. How much is it? Can I give you a little bit more? It's outstanding. You did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you very
And I'm
much.
sorry,
No, don't
we went back and forth and I said, I was thinking about this all night too.
Yeah.
When I said, I'll text you in 15 minutes or call you in 15 minutes. And I had all this family over at our house. So I'm entertaining for that. And I thought about that at 4 a.m. I'm up. I'm like, I forgot to call her up.
It's very nice to meet you. I'm sorry for the reason I'm meeting.
Oh, yeah. Hey.
But it's nice. It's nice. So what did you do? You said you were in sales?
Yeah, I'm a manufacturer's rep. So
Do you have to travel a lot?
I used to, not as much anymore because everything's, online, virtual meetings.
Where did you used to go?
I used to go everywhere. So it's Texas a lot, Las Vegas, I do trade shows, Las Vegas, Florida.
Yeah. Must have had a lot of people.
Oh, I did. I had a home in Arizona, not too far from my mom too. So that's why I got that ball. Yeah, she was. Yeah, she really was.
My mom, my dad, the other way around. Once young, no, she wants to. She got many jobs. And it's wonderful. I would never have thought if you tell us comfortable, the company would you know that much, right? Thank you very much. Okay, well, if you need yep, I'm done.